very difficult jobs, and it's made even more difficult interacting with individuals who come to a facility or come to police custody from various different walks of life with various different issues. And it presents obviously very challenging situations for these officers. But that being the case, you know, I came into this office understanding the need for and wanting to make sure that cases involving the death of civilian populations, whether in the custody of police departments or in county jails, or in some way, shape, or form in the hands at the hands of police officers, that those cases receive a thorough, comprehensive prosecutorial review, and that, you know, every human life is meaningful, and that when a person loses their life, when they are in custody of a county sheriff or a police department, that it is very, very important that this kind of comprehensive review take place. Again, not just by an investigating agency, but by a prosecutorial authority. And so these cases came to us. The Bolthouse case came to us referred.
Dana, your microphone just muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't touch anything. So these cases came to us. I don't know when I muted, but these cases came to us from the Muskegon County Prosecutor's Office and the Ingham County Prosecutor's Office, and so we, you know, engaged in in-depth investigation and review independently, and so we've come to the conclusions that we presented in the course of our press release, and also I think what it was a pretty comprehensive video explaining some of our decision making. So with that, I will open it up to questions. Oh, and one last thing, I want to thank my staff that worked tirelessly on these cases to bring them to the point where they are right now. So thanks so much to every one of my staff that was involved in this, you know, tireless review and their hard work in coming to these determinations.
Thank you, Attorney General. First up with their question will be Amy Broderick from Wood TV. Amy, are you ready?
Actually, this is Ken Colker from Wood TV. Amy signed up for me because I was working on a story yesterday, but if I could
yeah, thanks, Ken. Go ahead.
This is regarding the Paul Bolthouse case. The sheriff says that he's been transparent, put out a press release yesterday, and cooperative, but there's a federal lawsuit that was filed that accused him and his department of a cover-up and some of falsifying reports. My first question is, have you had any signs of that? And the follow-up, if I could, is they've been released on $10,000 bond and are back to work, all of the 4 deputies. So those are I know I'm supposed to ask one, but those are my 2 questions, if I could.
Okay, thanks for those questions, Ken. First of all, let me say that in terms of our review, we reviewed the work of the mission team, and then we conducted our own investigation where we developed additional evidence from what had been provided. And again, my team worked tirelessly in terms of, you know, consulting with experts and witnesses and getting as much in the way of video footage as they possibly could. So, you know, we relied on the investigation that our department actually performed. And so that's what this is based on, is our department's investigation with the information that was given to us, and then much additional information that was developed during the course of our investigation. In terms of these, the officers being back to work, I will say, firstly, that obviously the most important considerations for bond are, you know, threat to the community and whether or not the individual will appear for court. And in terms of the bonds, I mean, we have no reason to think that these officers wouldn't appear for court. And generally, when you talk about public safety, in terms of the public at large, obviously we don't see these officers as being a risk to the public at large, and that's why we would not have objected to a personal bond. In terms of the sheriff's decision to put them back to work, you know, they are presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. That is a question for the sheriff as to what his reasons were, or, you know, in terms of placement of these particular individuals. So that's not something that I could answer. That would be a question to be asked of the sheriff.
But he was fully cooperative in his department with your investigation?
I can't answer that question. All I can say is that, you know, we worked with the information that we were provided. Danielle, do anything in addition to add?
Yes, thank you, Attorney General. I would say that the sheriff in Muskegon County was cooperative when we asked for specific pieces of evidence. He was always willing to give us what we needed, and I would not say that there's any reason to say that he was not cooperative.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Caleb Holloway. All right. Zach Harmon from Fox 17.
Yeah, I think that's for me, Julie Dunmeyer from Fox 17, my assignment editor. Went ahead and RSVP'd us as well. My question will be, is this the tip of the iceberg for charges in Muskegon County? The attorney representing Mr. Bolthouse in the civil case called it the conditions of the jail third world country like. Is this the start of many more investigations into that prison system and to other situations across the state?
Danielle, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
We're here today to discuss the charges against the officers related to Paul Bolthouse's death, as well as the officers related to Anthony Hulan's death. I don't believe that we're prepared to discuss anything beyond that, and it would be premature for us to speculate about other investigations. And so I think we need to focus on why we're here today.
Thank you. Eve Jones from WXYZ. All right. Jason Lafferty from WDIV, or a reporter from WDIV. All right. Lisa Roos Church from MERS. I guess everybody's getting their answers. Jim Wyatt from...
Courtney, why don't you wait a second longer, because we've had this issue before where it takes a minute for them to unmute and everything. So if you could give everybody a little bit more time, please.
Okay.
If we could, this is Kimberly Craig from WXYZ. I think Eve Jones put down for just our station, but I'll ask the question. I know you said you can't speak to any I presume the specifics of any other investigations, but can you say if there are any other investigations going on as it relates to in custody deaths, even if you're not identifying the facility?
I don't believe that we do have any specific investigations underway at this point as it pertains to additional in custody deaths. Danielle, do you want to correct me if I'm wrong?
No, you got that right.
Thank you much.
All right. Is Lisa Roos Church from MERS here?
This is Lisa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking our questions, but my question has been asked and answered. Thank you, though.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. Jim Wyatt from ABC 12. Okay. We have a representative from WZZM 13. Not seeing them in the list of participants either, so I don't believe that they're here. Next would be Andrew Miniger from SVG TV. His name is also not here in the list. Next would be Michaela Temple from Fox 47.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for taking my question. Last weekend, on Saturday, Mr. Hulan's family and protesters rallied downtown, and they said that they're going to keep fighting for justice in this case and are even trying to push for an investigation to get reopened. What would you say to them now moving forward?
Well, all I can say is that, we took these cases incredibly seriously. I don't believe there's any more, T's to cross or I's to dot. I mean, we did an incredibly thorough and comprehensive review on this case. As I've indicated, I think during the course of the video presentation on this, it's clear that the Hulan family, they are grieving, they are suffering. I know it's very, very hard to understand, why in some instances, you see something that's very upsetting to you and it feels like somebody should be held responsible. Now, I know that there is a civil lawsuit pending, but of course there's a very different standard between when somebody is civilly responsible versus criminal culpability. And we reviewed this case extensively from every angle that you could imagine. We interviewed countless witnesses and reports and police reports, medical reports, expert witnesses. And by the way, our full comprehensive report, as always, in cases where we deny the warrant involving an in-custody death or an officer-involved shooting, that will be up on our website so that people can take a look at exactly what we did to evaluate this. We simply found that there was no criminal culpability on behalf of any of the police officers involved. And our findings were that there was a specific policy in place, that the officers followed that policy. They did not, in terms of use of force, they did not go beyond what was necessary given the circumstances. I also want to say this in regard to that case. This is a situation where these officers are in a very difficult set of circumstances, right? They took Mr. Hulan to the hospital to be treated. He was medically discharged back into their care. Obviously still suffering from what seemed to be a drug overdose of some sort, and had a lot of intoxicants in his system that was causing him to behave in a way where he really couldn't control himself. And had the officers not intervened in the way that they did, and in accordance with their policy, you may have seen another set of circumstances that I'm sure the Hulan family or anybody would be very upset about. In the event, for instance, that there was not an attempt to restrain Mr. Hulan, and say he ended up attempting to commit suicide or hurting himself in some other way because he was acting very erratically while he was in lockup. And so the officers did what they were supposed to do in accordance with their policy. This had a very unhappy ending. There's no question that this was a tragedy. But our job was to determine whether or not there was criminal culpability on the part of the officers, and we absolutely found that there was none. I don't know what additional investigation could or would be done, and who would be an appropriate entity to do that. I can just say that this was an extensive review. I don't think there's anything more that we could have possibly done in regard to our review, and we stand by our conclusions.
Thank you, Attorney General. The next question would be from Cody Butler at WILX. Cody, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Again, with Anthony Hulan case, the family says that they haven't been contacted by anyone from your office, the police department. I guess can you kind of talk about has anyone from your department reached out, and if not, why?
We did reach out. We attempted to contact the attorney who represents the Hulan family and did not hear back from that attorney. We can't contact them personally, ethically, because they are represented by counsel. So all we can do is contact their attorney, which we did.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next will be Walt from Michigan Telecast. Walt, are you there? I'm not seeing him on the participant list, so I don't believe that he's actually here. Althea Casbin from Gongworth. Okay. A representative from WLNS. They're not showing in the participant list either. A representative from MLive, Kalamazoo Gazette.
Hi, this is Marie Wiedmeyer. My question is on the Bolt House case. Your report said that he was dead at 5:30 in the morning. The sheriffs previously said they didn't find him until 6:20 in the morning. Does this mean he was deceased in his cell for those 50 minutes, or is the timing just off?
Pass that over to you, Danielle.
And that is a question I think is best left for Melissa, if you want to try to explain that or answer that, please.
Sure. So he did die around 5:35 a.m. and he was not found until around 6:20 a.m. So he was just in the cell during that period of time.
Okay, thank you. And are you releasing video footage of this case at all from the jail?
So what? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to?
No,
Let me
go
just
ahead.
take that. We intentionally did not release that video, and that's because obviously in the Hulan case we're not charging, so there is no proceedings that this would be prejudicial to. It's really important to the extent possible that we not release the evidence in cases where we've charged. Theoretically, anything could happen in court. Say there's evidence suppressed, but we now have released it publicly. There could be a claim made by the defense that it was prejudicial in some way and that it tainted the jury. And so it's really important for us not to release that kind of evidence publicly because that's all going to come out during the court proceedings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So Kyle Kaminsky from City Pulse. Kyle, do you have a question? Doesn't look like he's in the participant list either. Okay, Sarah from LSJ.
The news release from this morning mentions that the Attorney General's office reviewed all available LPD reports in the Anthony Hulan case, and I'm wondering, were there reports that were not made available? What were those reports, and is there a reason that they weren't made available? Did LPD withhold any reports, and for what reason?
Danielle?
I'm going to ask Rick Cunningham to go ahead and answer that.
Yes, there were some officers that were involved in the situation that did not do reports. The policy of the Lansing Police Department is that they will not require reports under Garrity. So the officers, two of the detention officers who were actually involved in the incident, they did not do reports. So the reports that were done were all reviewed, they were all examined, but there were issues involving, Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and the police department did not require a Garrity statement. Garrity can require, under Garrity, they can be required to make a statement, but the department did not do so. Is that sufficient?
So to clarify, you're saying not that reports were made and not reviewed, but that certain reports were not made to begin with?
That's it exactly. Everything that every report that was made made available to us, and we reviewed all of it. Some of the officers involved did not do reports, and again, they have a Fifth Amendment right not to do a report under those circumstances, and the department, under the Garrity versus New Jersey ruling of the United States Supreme Court, could require it, but it is the policy of the Lansing Police Department, I understand, not to require such. And again, I think that goes to the civil cases. There's nothing in the criminal law that would require it here.
Thanks, Rick. We've got time for just a couple more questions. Steve Carmody, are you there? It doesn't look like he's in the list either. Raymond Hole. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Scott McClellan from Center Square.
My question was answered. Thank you, though.
Thanks, Scott. All right, Christian Martinez.
Yes. Sorry. AG Nessel, you mentioned that the officers acted in accordance with their policy. What was that policy, and is that policy in accordance with the bulletin that is mentioned in the memo that advises officers to avoid putting people under the influence of drugs in positions that restrict airways, because that increases the risk of positional asphyxia?
Danielle?
Sorry, I was just pulling that policy up to remind myself of the number. So the policy that I have specifically at my disposal at this moment is policy number 700.26, which was in place at the time related to Mr. Hulan's death. And so that is the policy that we have looked at. And I don't think that it specifically speaks to restraint of individuals who are under the influence of narcotics. It speaks to the number of folks who are involved in the use of the restraints, the type of restraint methods, the purpose of the restraints, and things of that nature.
In your view, is that policy then insufficient to kind of address situations such as Mr. Hulan's?
I'm not going to give you my opinion about policies that police officers are under and operate under. What I would say is that it played into our investigation and our decision as to how we proceeded with this case. But I think like anything else, when it comes to these sorts of incidences, it offers an opportunity to review what happened and to always have an open mind about how things can be improved upon.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let me follow up on that just for a second. And I think it really it marks what the contrast is between these two cases. That you have in one instance where the officers are, following the policy to a T, as in they're following their training and they're doing exactly what they were instructed to do. Whether or not that is a good policy, or there could be a better policy, that is obviously, that is a different discussion. But in terms of whether or not the officers were grossly negligent, there has to be a determination. Were they doing exactly what they were instructed to do? In the Hulan case, the answer to that, we believe, is yes. In the Bolthouse case, on the other hand, the allegations, part of them, and playing a role into whether or not these defendants were grossly negligent, is that the officers actually violated their own policies that they were, specifically trained on. So that is a big part of the contrast in these cases.
Thank you, Attorney General. We've got time for 2 more questions. The first will come from Lisa Palmer at Fox. The second will come from Amy Bucknam at CBS. Lisa? Give you a couple more seconds here. All right. CBS, representative from CBS, I see you on the participant list. It just doesn't show your name. All right. Well, if all questions have been answered, we will wrap things up now. Is there anything in closing that you'd like to say, Attorney General?
Yeah, I just want to, I don't know if our Chief of Investigations, Tom Fabus, is on here. Is he on there? I think I see him.
He is listening in. He is listening.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to thank Tom and his great work of his staff as well. I neglected to mention them. It's a really critical part of these investigations is the investigators that we have in the Department of Attorney General, who in my opinion are top notch. Thank you to Tom and thank you to your staff as well as all of my criminal team. And thank you for joining us here today. We appreciate the attention to these important matters, and our office is going to continue to take these types of cases very seriously, and to the extent that we can, use every tool in our toolbox to enhance our public integrity division so that these types of cases get the attention that they deserve from a prosecutorial standpoint and an investigative standpoint.
Is there a chance for one quick follow-up question from Wood TV?
If you could email it to agpress@michigan.gov, I'll take care of you. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. As always, like I said, if you need anything, you can reach out to us at agpress@michigan.gov and we'll get back to you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.